You all had things, some more than others, some much less. But the one thing you shared was your ability to possess these things, coming from either the heavy forests of the underwood, the dusty plains of Desternum, or the cold, snowy mountains of Chilbrant. You all know of the temple which meets at your borders. Emoturnus was its name, and long had the courtyard above been seen as a cursed and unholy land, warned about being passed along. However, for centuries, the slab of rock lay calm with a beautiful fountain pouring continuously into itself. Some say that fountain was all the good in the world, fighting to keep the darkness below contained. It is here that you find yourself, whether by mere interest, a mission by your respective home city, or just as an adventurer looking to make a name for yourself. You all find yourself drawn to seek out this place. Hey everyone, welcome to our first story core. In these videos, I'll present to you the key parts that make up a good story and discuss how this particular story core uses them. Feel free to use this story for one of your adventures and tweak it however you feel fit. Also, if you're just looking to be inspired to write or get some ideas flowing, then have a listen. For our first story core, I've really fleshed out the sections and put in a large amount of detail. Going forward, all topics will not always be discussed, and some parts will be shorter than others when it makes sense. Please enjoy. So, you remember that little excerpt I read to you? That's our introduction. This would be how I give people a taste of what to expect. This helps them clue into the settings and the story without giving away too much information. With this story hook, you want to give them an idea of the world and a hint of something that will be important in your story. This intro will seem to be very mundane and unimportant to the players, however, you can really pack some cool things in here, which the players will look back at later and really enjoy. Beginning. So when you start the first session, it's important, no matter if this is a single game or one which will continue, that you establish the players' characters in your story. So I would start off by having the players explain what they were doing when they came here. Things to take notice of would be how they approached, what their motives were for coming here. Use this information to try and meet your story with theirs. This can help them feel like they're living in this world and that their choices matter. First hints. A dark voice chuckles, and it seems to bounce around the room, having no clear source. Another group of strong and powerful adventurers have assembled themselves in my dock below. Will they even make it out of the first room this time? So many others have failed to pass the first trial. Well, no reason to delay any further. The first has awoken, and hopefully they will wake the others in time. Let us start the fun. This is a great way to get your players' minds running. Depending on your player, they may be used to a great game. However, I imagine most come in expecting very little. I know personally I've come to expect that others will simply not take the time necessary to set up a well thought out story. Often for others, the story is not even their interest. But for those who are looking for a mystery, it's good to give them food for thought early. In this adventure, I do this by presenting our low, somewhat bored voice who doubts the party. Immediately, the party's at odds with this voice, as he doubts their abilities. It isn't important that they know the truth of who this voice is right now. However, it's important to build a confrontation with this voice, so they come to dread or despise it. Theme: the meaty center. So as I mentioned about providing the food for thought, you start to show a theme and what the players guess the source. Often they will guess wrong, and even when wrong, this is good. The feedback of people wondering about the sources lets you know they're buying into the story, and it gives you ideas to use going forward. In this first session, we had rooms, each an emotion or an obsession. This game is set to be about the drawing of the power that emotions create. By theming the rooms of the first dungeon in this way, but not specifically telling them about this, it lets a simple clue slip under the player's noses for now. However, later they will love making the connections to these small, obscure clues. Clues. Some examples of these clues will follow. First example is a room of fear. A wraith, which can blend into the room, uses a frightful presence and its great speed to feed on the party. This wraith will have multiple ways of causing fear and will particularly pursue those who fail their saves and run away. Once it has made its first strike, it will laugh as it darts around, enjoying the fear and panic it is causing. Room of Faith. A Drider practicing a religious ritual will ask for the help of the party. The devotion he has to the god he performs this ritual to over and over again will likely have your party on edge. However, if they can have some faith, they gain a helpful ally. Room of Sorrow. A god, representative of the Grim Reaper in this story, weeps for those he lost in his previous life. Those who mock or attack him are stricken by grief and see a painful image of their past, often leaving them with some kind of mental scarring. Those are just a few examples, but as they see more and more of these little nibbles of clues, they begin to put together a narrative. Sometimes dead on, other times not, or maybe just a little bit off. This is great, and if they do begin to kind of rehearse something and it's not exactly what you had, it might be worthwhile to change your story to what they have. It gives a better fit to the idea of this arc. Arc points. So what I have explained has been mostly the first adventure. However, if you're making this a ongoing thing, you'll want to have other things to do between the story moments. At the end of the first adventure, you'll introduce your villain and maybe a henchman. In this game, I introduced the somewhat incompetent henchman who was trying to escape with the story hook items. For me, these were orbs of power he had drained from the temple of Emoturnus. For you, it may be a relic or some kind of weapon. Make sure to make this creature strong but not unbeatable. He'll either knock out your party and slip away successful, or be beat down before he can escape. Either way, your party will be thrilled. In the event they win, they'll feel like they stopped the first part of this big evil's plans, and if they fail, well, then they have built some hatred and maybe a want to seek out this beast and possible figure ways to defeat him. Ultimately, in my game, I had the big evil show up and snatch the orbs up while the party dealt with his henchmen, which he left to be killed by the party. Though this was my path, it's okay to also let them possess the item and not know its use or lose it later on in some other incident. In summary, that moment would be your campaign hook and also your first arc point. Other arc points could be the evil sending others to retrieve the item you saved, or the big evil trying to retrieve more orbs in another part of the world. These moments keep the story breathing, while your group continues to do the mundane stuff in between. The last part with themes is alternate themes. These are things that might come up in your game that you maybe want to add in that aren't part of the main theme, but add something extra to the story. Maybe this is player inspired, or maybe it's just something from someone's backstory that you want to throw in. The important thing to think of is, will this muddle my story? If you have the story about emotions and how the power of emotions feed into the big evil motive, it might be a bad idea to add in a story about your single player's drive to learn the magic of necromancy. This would maybe hurt your ability to convey sadness for the dead to this person, or love for those who have passed, as they see death as only another obstacle. And this might cheapen the emotions you can represent. Also, this drive could crowd out others' ability to care. If this is a single player's motive, why would another player want to help them? Often it can drive a wedge between some other players. The important thing to do is to determine, is this story full enough? If you feel that as a player you could distinguish the difference between one theme and another, then maybe you can fit it in. However, if not, then it'll be hard for your players to notice this as well. As a DM, you have a way clearer view of the story. And like someone watching a TV show, you can see how things fit in with one character to another. But consider the players and the NPC's point of view will give you a way better idea of what the players would reasonably put together. Just like in your TV show, how one character doesn't know what happened to the other, your players also can't experience things that they're not there for, and thus can't connect those parts of the story. Ultimately, it's really up to you. Pre-finale jitters. So you're bringing this wonderful story to a close. The party has bought into your story so far, the arc points have occurred, giving them more and more clues over time, and giving them a better picture of what's going on. They've met the villain several times, whether in person or through some form of communication. Only problem is, you aren't sure the party has the story figured out. They mention to one another ideas of what they think is going on, but it's not perfectly right. They may even be unsure of their motivations and who they should be seeking or where they should be going. You just have to throw them that final obvious answer. May cheapen it for some people, however, if they lack the ability to get it at this point, there's really nothing else you could have done. This simple clue can come in the form of the evil villain explaining his plan because he gets too cocky or thinks he's unstoppable at this point. Another way to do this is have a henchman come to you either in hope of getting your help to protect them or to get this big baddie out of the way so they can take over. In this story, I would have a cultist come to the party and share his doubts in the morality of the plans and spill the story to them and even tell them where they need to be going to stop him. The finale. So here it is, the end. Wow, you guys did it. Some may be sad to see this day come, others will be thrilled to have found a party that they were able to take a story to its conclusion with. So you want this to be grand, but also wrap up very cleanly. The party wants to win or lose, they don't want to feel like their last moments they had no control over. For our story, we might have the entire thing come back to the Temple of Emoturnus. The party will have a very significant tie to this area, as it's either the spot they started this adventure successful or felt their first beating. Have there be little to no trouble getting in. You don't want to have a 60-minute combat where they kill 5 guards, just to then have them fight the big guy and it ends quicker. You can even express this to them, say on the way they kill several guards, but simply mention there's no point in playing it out as they are way above their power and just bowl through them. And then in the main chamber, that's where you'll have some kind of ritual going on. The way it works is completely dependent on you. My suggestion would be that the bad guy is activating each of these orbs on an altar, and while he does that, you have 2 to 3 really strong guards, or maybe a single really powerful henchman, nearly almost as powerful as the main bad guy, fight the party and keep them away from the orbs. While this occurs, you could also have, depending on how the party's going, multiple enemies pouring in through different doorways. But make these simple enemies like 1 hit kill, 2, 3 hit kills, just so that you're not gumming up all this struggle with a bunch of enemies that are pointless and have no significant feeling to the players. Once they defeat the henchmen, you can have that final encounter, and in this encounter you should make sure to run them through the shredder. Have them really work for this win, as it will only make it even sweeter when they succeed, or incredibly crushing when they fail. Either the ritual gets complete or the ritual is interrupted and ended by the party. The finale is up to you and your preference. I always like to allow for victory or failure in my games. I would say one outcome is he summons a terrible evil and then leaves the party bleeding out at their last stand. Or the party crushes him and he paused at the ritual table, staring blankly into the spot he was working. Also, if the party would be okay with it, you can have them weaken the guy and a NPC shows up to give them that final edge. Someone they maybe got to know pretty well. And certainly don't have this NPC take the kill, but have him do something that's significant. You can either simply end it there, or based on how your party interacted with the world, you could even have them go back and collect a city reward, have a party in their honor, or a parade, or a festival. If this NPC they you brought in did help them and they knew him pretty well, you could have him die and have them share some heartfelt words with his final breaths. Alternatively, if they failed, you could explain the places they have invested in and the terrible things that happen as they are no longer there to defend the people and towns. This is how I would do it. As you lay on the ground, bloody and broken, you see the ritual completing. The evil lord passes by, chuckling. As he does so, you begin to dread all the things he will do. He stops at your party and peers down. You all thought you were so powerful. You were championed as the saviors, the chosen ones, the mightiest warriors and magic wielders. Now look at you, pathetic failures. Yes, this is all you will be known as now. As he walks on, your mind goes dark and you begin to hear screams outside. Think about your family. You think about the townspeople. You know you did everything you could, and yet you still failed. Tears well up in your eyes as you peer across to your companions. Off far beyond the temple, the darkness feeds on the world you once loved. Bodies lay in the streets, and nothing, not even the young children, are spared from this ultimate doom. Wow, what a story. Hopefully this story core was helpful. And if you liked what you saw, please share the channel and consider leaving a like. It really helps the channel grow. I love reading your comments, so please leave your questions below. StoryCores aims to be your home for fostering creative storytelling and for finding inspiration to make your own stories come to life. I'll always provide the StoryCores as long as you all keep building around them. Have a wonderful day and please subscribe if you want to see more content. Thank you.